Hello everyone out there in internet land, it's your old pal Mike Radich, and today I have another great interview for you. Today I'm going to be interviewing Dean Smith. Now if you've ever seen the movie El Dorado with John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, and James Caan, you know exactly who Dean Smith is. Dean Smith plays the character in the movie who James Caan knifes in the saloon or cantina or cafe, whatever you want to call it, that classic scene where James Caan confronts him and then throws the knife at him. That's Dean. Dean plays the character in that movie that James Caan knifes. But beyond that, Dean has lived quite a life. He's lived a dream life for a lot of people. A lot of people dream of doing just one of the things that Dean's done over the course of his life. Take a minute and ask yourself a couple of these questions. 1, did you ever want to be an Olympic gold medalist? 2, have you ever wanted to be an actor making movies and TV shows? Ask yourself this, have you ever wanted to be a professional athlete? And finally, ask yourself this question, have you ever wanted to be an all-star college athlete? Have you ever wanted to be the big man on campus? Ask yourself those questions, and I'm sure one of them, maybe all of them, you've wanted to do over the course of your life. You've wanted to be a professional athlete, or you wanted to be in movies, or you wanted to win Olympic gold. I'm sure that you guys listening out there wanted to have one of those things during the course of your life. Dean Smith actually accomplished all of that. He was a phenomenal college athlete. He was on the track team. He also played football. He set a bunch of records at the University of Texas. In 1952, he won an Olympic gold medal. And then after that, he went on to play pro football. And after that, of course, he went on to have a very long and successful career in acting and stunt work. He appeared in 10 John Wayne movies. He made a lot of TV shows and a lot of movies as an actor and stuntman. So he lived out a dream of a bunch of people all in one lifetime. A lot of people have dreamt about being the big man on campus and a college athlete. A lot of people have dreamed about being in movies. A lot of people have dreamed about winning Olympic gold. A lot of people have dreamed about just participating in the Olympics. A lot of people have dreamed about playing pro football or playing a professional sport. A lot of people have dreamed about that. Just one of those, and he got to live out all of them. So he has a very, very fascinating story. Dean currently has a book out. The title of the book is called, and I love this title, by the way. Absolutely love this title. The book is called Cowboy Stuntman, From Olympic Gold to the Silver Screen. The book is available now. You can get it on Amazon, and maybe your local bookstore might have a copy of it. Go check with your local bookstore, and if they don't have it, then you can always go to Amazon. But he has done so many great things in so many different fields, and he is, on top of that, a very, very nice guy. He's a great athlete, a great actor, but an even better person. So here it is, my interview with Dean Smith. Dean, how are you?
Just fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Dean, we could go 100 different directions with this interview because you've lived such an amazing life. You have such an amazing story. You've been successful in so many different areas. We could really go 100 different directions. You've lived a dream life for a lot of people. A lot of people dream of winning Olympic gold, and a lot of people dream of playing a professional sport, and a lot of people dream of being an all-star college athlete, and a lot of people dream of being in the movies and being on TV and having a long career in the movie business, and you've done all of that. You've lived a dream of so many people, just one of those areas a lot of people dream of, and you've lived that dream over and over again. You've excelled in all those different areas. You've got to experience all that stuff and have done well in all of those areas. So you really have lived a dream life. So I guess we'll start with this. Out of all the things you've accomplished over your life, what's number one for you? What's the thing that you're most proud of?
Well, I guess I'm proud of the life that I've led due to the fact that I started out on this farm where I'm sitting right now, and I grew up here in Texas on a dirt farm, and I had dreams of a young boy going to Hollywood when I was a boy, going into Graham or Breckenridge, Texas, and going to the movies and watching all my heroes, and I like to emulate them. And when I got through, of course, I had a great career in track and field at Graham High School and the University of Texas, and it's been almost so long since I did all those great things. A lot of people I've outlived. I've outlived a lot of people. They don't even know what I've done.
Right.
But I have been very fortunate that I had great grandparents who raised me, and I lived on a farm, and I worked hard, and as the old boy said, I ate a lot of cornbread and red beans and chicken fried steak when I was growing up, but it sure made me strong. And I wasn't afraid to dream of what I wanted to do and emulate my cowboy heroes. And not only did I have great heroes in Western movies and all kinds of movies, I had great heroes in sports, and trying to be able to play a little football like Slingin' Sammy Ball or Bobby Lane, or run track like Mel Patton or Harrison Dillard or any of those guys. I was raised at a really fine time in my life, and I was kind of cut out probably to do exactly what God intended for me to do. Most people, they kind of want to get themselves into something so they'll be secure in their job. But I really lived here on this farm, and I knew that I would be on this farm all my life, and that I was going to either be a farmer or rancher, or I was going to go to Hollywood and play cowboy in the movies. And it worked out, and I think God had his hand on my back most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to when you were a kid. If someone would have come up to you and said, this is what you're going to accomplish over your lifetime. You're going to be an all-star college athlete. You're going to be a professional football player. Then you're going to win Olympic gold. And then you're going to have a successful career in movies and TV shows, being an actor and stuntman. Out of the stuff that you've accomplished, both in sports and in the movie business, what would you have said was too far-fetched if someone would have come up to you when you were a kid and said, this is what you're going to accomplish during your life?
Well, I tell you what, I kind of left my mind open, and I had a great-grandmother, and she just gave me all kinds of wisdom. And she always would say, well, now, that's what you really want to do, son. That's what you ought to do, because if you wait a few years and you don't get to do those dreams that you want to do, then you won't ever have that to look back on. And I kind of listened to her, and she always said, well, now, if you go out there and you don't do well, you know what you can do, you always can come home. So I was always able to come home, and I think going to the Saturday afternoon matinees in Graham and Breckenridge, and anywhere I was in Texas on a Saturday, I was at a theater going to see a cowboy. Most of them were B-Westerns, and then, of course, as I got older and went to school off at the University of Texas and started seeing John Wayne and Gary Cooper and all those fellas, and it made me realize that, there was different degrees of movies. They were B-Westerns and bigger pictures. And I worked in a lot of other pictures other than Westerns, but I think the Western suited me most. I didn't get in the business for the recognition. I just wanted to associate with all those fellas. And not only did I want to associate with them, I wanted to be like them. Now, I was not a Shakespearean actor, because that would have never interested me. But I did want to act and do like Roy and Gene and Duke and Gary Cooper, Jimmy Stewart, Tom Mix, and all those fellas. And look at all the directors like John Ford and Howard Hawks and Raoul Walsh and Earl Bellamy, and lots of wonderful directors and producers. My God, and most all of them now are gone. And the reason why that, I was so young when I started working for those fellas. I really wasn't really tremendously experienced due to the fact that when I got in that business, I could ride, run, and jump with anybody. And thank God that Bob Mathias took me over to the Waynes and introduced me to Duke and Bob Morrison, his brother, and Michael Wayne, his son, and Patrick and John Ethan, and Anita, and all the Waynes. I tell you that John Wayne did more to help me than anybody. And you know something? He's bigger now than he's ever been in his life.
Right.
He's an icon now, and they can't touch him with a 25-foot pole.
Now, Dean, I want to focus mainly on the Westerns that you made over the course of your career, but since you won an Olympic gold medal back in 1952, and I don't really know a whole lot about the Olympics, I think we should start there. I'm just curious, because nowadays there's all these Olympic trials and all these tournaments and all these different ways for someone to qualify for an Olympic team. I'm just curious, back then, how would someone make an Olympic team? What was the process like for you making the 52 Olympic team?
Well, of course, I was a sophomore at the University of Texas. I was 20 years old. That summer, we drove out to California, and we went to Los Angeles, and we stayed there on Figueroa Street at the Figueroa Hotel, and we trained, and I went and competed in the AAU there at Long Beach, and I won the 100 meters there, and that automatically qualified me to go to the Olympic trials. And then we had the Olympic trials, and we ran in the Olympic trials, and it was just really dead heat. Everybody was just trying so hard to get on it, and I qualified to go to the Olympics, and that was in the 100 meters. And when I got to Princeton, we trained back there, and I just saw a picture of myself that I got off of the computer of me and some guys, Lindy Renabagino and Fortune Gardine, who was a world record discus thrower, and I just saw that in a magazine, the American Cowboy magazine. And so anyway, I qualified. We left Los Angeles, went back to Princeton. We trained there at Princeton University for a few days. And then what happened, we went to downtown New York City, and we marched down Broadway, had our new uniforms, and they were blue sport coats and gray flannel navy boot pants, and we had a little canvas hat with white buck shoes, and well, we were pretty spiffy. And we flew over to Finland in DC-6 planes, and we never got out of New York, because every time we'd get on a plane, it seemed like it would have some kind of mechanical problem. But we got over to Finland in that summer of 1952, and they were having the Great Northern Lights, and we stepped in off the plane about 2 o'clock or so in the morning, and it was just like daylight outside, and there were people there by the thousands welcoming us, and it was just something, a 20-year-old Texas boy, that it was pretty different, I'll tell you what. It was bigger than life, you know. And so I got to do things that most people will never get to do, and I was very fortunate, and that was because I could run, you know.
Mm-hmm. I see. Now, how much of the country, because like you just said, the Olympics that year took place in Finland, how much of the country did you get to see?
Well, after the Olympic Games, where I got a gold medal, I was a leadoff man, and we defeated the Russians, and there's 6 of us that was in the finals of the 100-meter dash, and it was a dead heat, and they ended up giving me 4th, and we all had the same time as the first place guy, and so I definitely, even though it was more than 2 or 3 inches apart, I definitely think I got the bronze medal, but they gave it to MacDonald Bailey from Great Britain, and he was in my lane and should have been disqualified. But now, you know, after years of looking at film and stuff, I know that he was in my lane, and that's disqualification. So what happened after we ran in the Olympics, and we went on the tour of up in Finland up there to all those things, and so we had to wait just a minute. Fine, shut up. But anyway, we went up there and did all kinds of things that we had to do, and had track meets and stuff. And my first name is Finis, Finis, and I always went by the name of Dean when I was in college. But those Finnish people thought me having the name of Finis, it was almost spelled like Finland, and they had me on big billboards and over there as if I was a guy from Finland. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty ironic.
Right. Dean, just in general, throughout your lifetime, how many different countries have you been to? How much of the world have you seen?
Well, I've been all over. Of course, I went to 52. I went to Germany and Belgium and Great Britain and France and all those countries over there. You know, been to Mexico and Canada, and I haven't been out into the Orient. I guess I've been out and ran in 2 or 3 times in Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands and stuff like that. But I've never been like into Japan or China or anything like that. Mm. I've been to Canada, Mexico, many times. I worked on lots of westerns in Mexico. We used to go there all the time. But now it seems a little bit difficult for everybody to go down there, and I just soon stay home as have to worry about get my damn throat cut.
Right. And I heard never drink the water down there.
I've had that pleasure of having them damn turistas, and I remember standing at the Campo de Mexico, and I remember they gave us those 5-gallon jugs of water. That's supposed to be sparklets or that great water. And what they do, they take those 5-gallon jugs around there and fill it up with that tap water. And damn, that made me sicker than a dog. And but anyway, I remember coming down one time, and Maureen O'Hara, she didn't have a real nice place, so I let her have my suite of rooms at the Campo de Mexico courts. And so anyway, Maureen got through, and I went to another little room there. But anyway, you really have to watch your eating, and we had a restaurant there at the thing. And we all got so sick that we all had to go into the kitchen, all of us. We had to clean that whole damn thing out and try to keep as bacteria and sanitary as best we could. But I'll guarantee you what, when you're in Mexico and you're down there to do stunts and do all kinds of things, having the tourista and being sick is not anything for happy campers, I'll tell you that.
Right. Now, getting back to the Olympics, what were the expectations of your relay team? Were people picking you to win gold, or was this an upset?
Yes, I'm sure that we had those kind of sprinters. It was me, Harrison Dillard, Lindy Rimagino, and Andy Stanfield. And we made a pretty good combination of a relay team, and we defeated the Russians, and that was our main objectivity. Mm-hmm. And I remember just when we marched in that stadium, and that's when we looked like a crack paratroop bunch that come into the stadium, and we just marched right in there like we were going to war, and that's what we did. We won the damn thing.
Mm-hmm. After the Olympics in 1952, did you try to make another Olympic team, or were you just like, okay, I already have a gold medal, I'll just move on and pursue something else that I'm interested in? Did you try to make another Olympic team?
That was not the case, and a very sad thing happened to me at that time, and it will always be a very sad thing. Some of my teammates who I beat, other than Moore, I had never ran against Bobby, but what happened was that I was married to my high school sweetheart, and her mother didn't like me. I was a kid that was raised in the country, was a country boy, did Western stuff, rodeoed and everything. And so what happened was that my senior year at Texas, which was 1955, me and my wife, we were living in Austin, and what happened, she decided that she had enough of going to school down there and me running. And you know, when you're running and training all the time, it's pretty. You have to sacrifice an awful lot. And so what happened? She went home, and 1955, I went in the Army and went to Fort Ord and California, and so tried to train for the Olympics, but I just didn't have my heart in it, and I didn't qualify for the '56 Olympics. And but the boy that got second, I had beaten quite a number of times, and I didn't go, and that was a very big disappointment in my life. And but I believe I could have won that 100 meters in '56, but it didn't happen. It didn't work out. It wasn't meant to be. I guess it was just meant that I should have gotten my gold medal when I was 20 at the Helsinki Olympics. And as you look back on all those years, that's what happened, you know.
When you were at the University of Texas, I know you ran track, but did you play football also?
Yes, I played football. I had a pretty good year as a freshman at the University of Texas. And then, of course, I couldn't run track. I couldn't go out for spring training. And really, at that time, I was married, and I had a young son. And I played football because the way you look at it, they would give us 2 complimentary tickets, and then you could buy 4. And then, you know, you were lucky. They were 50-yard line tickets, and you generally could sell them and supplement your money. And that's what happened with me with the with that situation. And so yes, I did play football. I scored a touchdown against North Carolina State. University of North Carolina there in Chapel Hill. And but I didn't develop in football. But when I got out, and after I got out of the Army, I served 21 months, and the Rams were interested in me, and so I'd played halfback at Texas, and then when I went to the Rams, they put me at wide receiver, and I didn't weigh over 160 pounds, and that was pretty light in those days, you know. But anyway, it was kind of an ends to a means for me to get in the motion picture business due to the fact that they had the Times charity game there at the Coliseum, and I got a lot of publicity on that. And so anyway, Jim Bumgarner, that's his real name, got me in the picture business, and then Bob Mathias took me over and introduced me to Duke and all of them over there at Bad Jack. And so my first big picture for Wayne was the Alamo, which was in the fall of 1959. I had done another picture called Rio Bravo. Was going to double Ricky Nelson, but it ended up he didn't have much to do with it. They had a process shot that they did. And so, but Bob Mathias introducing me to Duke and the Wayne family enabled me to have, to this day, some of the best friends in the motion picture business. And they are first class family. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And old Duke, by God, he proved to them he could act a lot better. They thought that they didn't want to give him credit about, he was one of the best actors I've ever seen. And it is the truth, you know. Politically speaking, these old boys, they'll try to tear you down. This is discrimination all over the place now. Mm. Hollywood's not like it used to be. It never will be. You've got all kinds of damn people out there that has all kinds of different viewpoints, and most of them are people that don't know what they're doing and they don't have any experience, so they'll pick a political position, and that's about it. But I imagine you can tell by talking to me but now that I'm a very conservative West Texas boy. It's set in me, and it's always going to be in me, and right. I'm for the good old USA. I don't believe in changing the damn thing, and I like it stay like it is. But we need a little improvement here in the next couple of years, and I think we're going to get it, because I think people are going to be sick enough to get everything back like we used to have.
It's a perfect fit, you being a stuntman in Western movies and TV shows, because you're very athletic, and you can ride, you can do all these different things. It makes so much sense that you would be a stuntman, but was that your intention when you got into the business? Was that what you were hoping for? Is that what you were planning for, being a stuntman and doing all these different things? Or was that just directors and producers and casting people being like, you know what, you're athletic, you can do all these different things, just be a stuntman, be on that side of the business, do those things, do these stunts and all that stuff? Was it your intention, or was that just what was available to you? How did you become a stuntman?
The LA Rams discharged me, and I went by Warner Brothers Studio to see my friend Jim Bumgarner. And they said, we don't have anybody here but that name. And I thought, what in the world am I going to do? So I had a brand new, beautiful white Oldsmobile convertible with red leather seats, and I had 34 payments left on that, and I just got out of the Army. And I thought, well, I guess I'll go back to my hometown of Breckenridge, Texas, and where my grandmother lives, and we'll talk about it. So I went home, visited with my grandmother. The next week I picked up the Dallas, I think it was the Dallas Morning News, and it said in there, Jim Bumgarner had changed his name to James Garner, that he had just done a pilot called Maverick and was going to be in Dallas at the State Fair. And I told my grandmother, I said, that's my friend Jim Bumgarner. They've changed his name to James Garner. And I said, Mama, I'm going down there and see him about getting in the movies. And she said, well, if that's what you really want to do, you better do it, because time will go by and you'll start getting older and you won't have a chance. I went down there and he said, well, I see where you got, where they traded you to back east. And I said, yeah, and I didn't want to go back east, and I wanted to stay out there in Hollywood. And I said, Jim, you think you can get me in the movie business, get me in those unions and thing? He said, well, he had a friend there with him, a casting man. And so sure enough, a week later, I was back in Burbank on November I guess it was about the first week of November of 1957. They got me in the union, and then Bob Mathias took me over there. He was under contract to Duke, and everything just worked out just like somebody wrote the script, and I was in it, you know. And so here I am at 83 talking to you.
Right. Did you have a mentor? Did you have someone who showed you the ropes on how to be a stuntman?
First of all, I'd been one of the fastest guys in the world. I had rodeoed as a young man and still snuck out every once in a while, rode a bucking horse and roped and did a bunch of things. I had those qualifications. Not only that, I knew how to work cattle, and I knew how to drive a wagon and do some things. And so one thing led to another. So I didn't have professional experience about doing movie fights and stuff like that, but with my ability, it didn't take me long to catch on. And, you know, I had to learn real quick that you better be a good listener, you might end up getting killed. Because if you make a mistake, you might not survive it. Cliff Lyons, who was one of my mentors, him and Yakima Canutt at one time were the premier people, and they both worked for Wayne and at different times. And so Cliff Lyons took a liking to me and took me, of course, he was my mentor on the Alamo, and he taught me so many things. And I had a guy that took me under his wings and showed me and taught me, and I had a guy that cared like a dad, and he was a wonderful fella, and Cliff and Duke liked him as well as liked Yak. But of course, by then Yak had been doing a lot of second unit directing, and Cliff was still doing some of the stunt coordinating and stuff. So that worked out great for me, you see. I did the Alamo with Cliff, to Comancheros, McClintock, and we did a whole bunch of things, Rio Lobo, and I just met some of the greatest people of that era that you could ever imagine for me to meet.
Dean, tell me about the time you doubled for Maureen O'Hara in McClintock. How did that come about?
She was a woman, John Wayne.
Yeah.
Cliff Lyons was setting up the stunts, he knew that they had lots of stuff to do on McClintock.
Right.
And he knew that I still had pretty good legs and had spring, and I could wear some of them girl clothes. I had a little bit smaller waist than some of those old stuntmen. But anyway, they sent me to Max Factor, and I got a wig and a Western costume. I got those white leotards with that green, whatever you call that vest that they had. And we started on that movie somewhere around, I guess it must have been the end of November, 1st of December of 1961. We'd done Comancheros earlier. And Friday night in Abilene, I just did a book signing at the Paramount, I think it was the Paramount Theater. Sold out, sold every damn book I had, and it was quite a thing. It's one of the old theaters that's still left in this part of the country. Mm-hmm. And had a sold-out crowd. Isn't that something?
Right. That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, be honest. Was this the first and last time you ever wore a dress?
Let's see now. I did, I doubled out of Ballon on the Comancheros probably 6 months before I doubled Maureen. And I did a few little odds and ends, but by that time they were the stunt women, and they were wanting to, the women wanted to double the girls. The reason why those old stuntmen wanted them damn boys to double those girls, because they could get a lot rougher. But then the girls, they got to be some better athletes, and they got to be in the movie business. And they're by now they don't have any men doubling any women, except if it's a thing where it's they're going to be life and death, and
right.
But most of it is due to the fact that you just can't discriminate against.
Right.
I hired the first black stuntman in the movie business because I was told that they wanted me to do it, and I had an interview down there in Columbia Ranch there in that park, and I tested many guys. Now I was the first guy to do that. Mm-hmm. They wanted maybe one or two black stuntmen in the business, but I hired an old boy named Eugene Smith. Isn't that something? Eugene and Dean? That was quite a comparison.
Right.
But anyway, he was from Oklahoma, and so I got him to double Otis Young. I was doubling Don Murray in The Outcast. And but by that time, after I kind of got all that started, the white boys weren't doubling the blacks because there was a few of them getting in there that they could get by with it, So I was kind of a pioneer in all that, and I think I got some of the first official things going in the black community, and it was the right thing to do. It was things that they needed to get done, and there've been some really good athletes there since I started. And see, I'm 83 now. I'm no damn young kid, and I've been home for 20 years. But by that time, while everybody else is going, they quit making a lot of the westerns. Occasionally they will do one.
Right.
But they don't have wagons and all the horses and stuff that they used to have. Mm-hmm. They just put everything together but there used to be all kinds of stables and wardrobes and stuff like that. Now Western, I think American Costume Company still does a lot. My friend Lester Bayless, he runs that. And, I'll tell you what, I've seen the changing of the guard, and it's not been too pleasant to see all that.
Right.
But the thing is, it would be terrific if they were keeping the standards up and making it like we had. And this just, politically speaking, it's just been pretty inferior.
Mm-hmm. In John Ford's Stagecoach, released in 1939, Yakima Canutt has a lot of great stunts that he does in that movie, but one in particular, he does one where he jumps from horse to horse to horse when Andy Devine loses the reins, and John Wayne's character is being doubled by Yakima Canutt, and he jumps from horse to horse to horse to grab the reins. It's a great stunt. Now, in the 1966 remake of Stagecoach, Is that you doubling for Alex Cord and doing that Yakima Canutt stunt?
Yes, that is, uh-huh.
Tell me about that. Was that done just in one take?
That's done in one take. Not only that, they did the other one when Yak did the one was at Lucerne out there on those desert flats. Mm-hmm. I was up several thousand feet up there above Boulder, Colorado, up there at Caribou Ranch. I remember Bing Crosby was there that day, but anyway, they had a place where the camera car could run, and then they had a place for us to do the Stagecoach stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, when we started, the time I started inside that coach, climbed up on the top and jumped out the first two horses, which was the wheel horses, then next to the swing team and out to the leaders, and then I went down. I had to do that before I got into a wooded area, or they would have had to done it again because they wouldn't have seen it because of the massive amount of trees that was there. Now, when Yak did his, he was out there at Lucerne on a desert floor, and they could just run for a mile and a half down there without any obstruction of anything. Mm-hmm. So I thank God I was quick because we could. And you know something? We did it in one take.
Incredible.
But now, not taking anything away from Yak, he knew how to do all that. But Cliff Lyons, who was my mentor, showed me what I had to do before I went on that picture, and I knew how to rig the collars and stuff. Because if I jumped down with those collars and those belts snapped, so I had to wire those together so my weight would not break all that harness and stuff, and it would all fall down, and all those horses would get tripped up, you know, see. So I was one take and out of there. But I was always fast.
Yeah, and it's a great stunt. You definitely hold your own with Yakima Canutt. He's one of the greatest of all time, and you're right there with him.
Now I probably couldn't outrode him. I'd probably fooled you. I could ride pretty good bucking horses.
Yeah.
But of course Yak. Now I'm sure Yak might have been good, but he couldn't outrun me or outjump me. Mm-hmm. That's for damn sure. Right. I had a few good things on my own, you know.
Right.
But Yakima was just terrific, and he was a star. Him and Cliff. Mm-hmm. And I happen to be able to know them all.
Right.
I'll tell you what, that ain't bad for a little old West Texas boy here that went and did it all and came back, and I'm sitting here in my rocking chair talking to you.
Right. Sounds good, Dean. Now, what kind of injuries did you suffer when you were doing stunts, whether it was...
I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So, I was an athlete when I left the University of Texas, and I was a good athlete, and I had all kinds of natural ability. When I got in the movie business, I stayed as a good athlete. I trained and looked after myself. I didn't go to the bars. I didn't go drink. I had a responsibility to do. Now, not many people can be as disciplined as I am, because that I am. And so I took care of myself. I'd put my shorts on, and after many of those locations, I would go run, and the guys would go to the bars. But now that's a different background than what we had. Now, a lot of those guys were old rodeo cowboys. I rodeoed. I could ride bucking horses and do all that stuff. But I could not maintain a career and live in those bars. And because once you start being able to jump over them horses and do stuff, you can't do that training in a bar. It just don't work.
Right.
So I had a responsibility. If I wanted to be on top, that's it.
Right.
So really, I knew what I had to do. But there was a lot of things I had to learn, you know, and you just can't please everybody, you know. But I pleased the people that it mattered to, the directors and stunt coordinators, and, the actors. Most of them liked me doubling them because I had a good build and my movements were smooth.
What was your favorite stunt to do? Like, whether it was a particular stunt you did in a movie or just in general?
Well, I think the one that I liked most of all was, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, in 1959, we had that big picture that we were doing called the Alamo down there in Bracketville, Texas. Mm-hmm. And they had a shot where one of the Tennesseans run across, profile to the camera, and jump over this horse. and take this man off and slit his throat. Well, I took him off like I was jumping over a high hurdle, and I was just spread out like the guy doing the hurdles, and it's a terrific picture.
Right.
And about that time, the guy walked up, and he had an old slouch hat on, he had glasses and a patch over his eye, and white buck shoes, and he came up to me and reached over there and pulled that patch up and took a look at me, and he said, "Well, Dean, I've never seen anybody do anything like that, at least not on my pictures." And he said, "You didn't even use a trampoline." He said, "Now, if you ever hear me doing any more pictures, you got a job." And I worked with his last 3 pictures. But he was a really funny old coot, but he was a lovable old guy. He would put you under a lot of pressure. But I worked with him on Cheyenne Autumn, and 2 rode together, and How the West Was Won. I was lucky to get to start knowing. At that time, I was starting to meet all the big people and get the reputation of that Texas boy from Austin.
Right.
So anyway, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do the same way. Just different now. But I'm glad I got all that in before I got too damn long in the tooth. I've got a damn great book out now. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, yeah. We're going to plug that a little bit later.
Okay.
We're going to talk about your book in just a minute, but before we do that, let's talk about some of the movies that you made with the Duke. Now, it's very interesting for me because you're in all 3 of my 3 favorite John Wayne movies. First, let's start with The Alamo.
It's here at last, the monumental history-making motion picture, 14 years in the making, the $12 million epic, The Alamo. Starring John Wayne as Colonel David Crockett.
Why did you want to be in the Alamo so badly? Was it because of the history with you being from Texas? Was it the history that you wanted to be a part of this movie because, with you being a Texan and all, there's a lot of history there. You wanted to be a part of the movie for that reason? Was it because you wanted to work with John Wayne? Or was it because it was a massive production, it was a very big movie, and you thought it would be good for your career to be a part of it? I'm just curious, why did you want to be in that movie so badly?
Well, I've been a Texas boy, and knowing about Texas history, and knowing that John Wayne was going from Hollywood down to Texas on the Rio Grande there at Brackenville, was going to go there to make a picture. Well, my God, I wanted to go home to see my grandmother. She was still living, who was still there on the farm where I was raised, and it was a big thing for me to go, and I had to start preparing to get on that picture a year or so more. So when Bob Mathias took me to Wayne and met those people, I was enabling myself a shot to go back home to work on a thing about Texas history, to get to see my grandmother. And for the first time in my life, I had money in the First National Bank in Brackenville, Texas. Mm-hmm. Now, my life is pretty much written in stone. Everything I've done has been said or done or anything before. But I wasn't, I was the fastest, could jump higher than any of those guys, and I was just, he just kind of led me by the hand, took me down to where I had to go, and it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. As I look back on it, it had to be. My God, you couldn't write a damn story like that unless it was that way. Well, boy, I'll tell you, working on that picture with all those thousands of people and all, down there in West Texas, and you got to see Santa Ana, and you see John Wayne and Richard Widmark and Lawrence Harvey be up there on top of that Alamo with them. I was up there, and well, the thing is, they had me up there with Wayne and them. I was going to take a shot at Carlos Arusa, and they changed the story with Lawrence Harvey up there. But you'll notice that there was a cut there where I was raising this rifle up to shoot him when he went up there and read that proclamation. Mm-hmm. But they changed that little bit of thing there. But I had about 15 costume changes. I must have had 15 lines in that picture, and I was in a different character all the time.
Right.
And I remember my favorite line was, when I was up there on the cannon on top of the Alamo, Lawrence Harvey looked over and said, "Is the gun ready?" And I said, "All primed and ready, sir." And so anyway, that was one of my classic lines, "All primed and ready." And, but anyway, it's something that's written in stone. I was so happy to be able to work in that picture.
Now, in the movie, I know you're doubling for Frankie Avalon, but how many people exactly do you play in this movie? How many people are you actually doubling for? Are you doubling for some of Davy Crockett's men? Are you playing some of Bowie's men? Are you playing some of Travis's men? Are you playing a Mexican soldier? You know, how many different characters do you play in this movie, and how many different people were you doubling for in this movie?
Did a lot of the Mexican soldiers. I did mostly doubling Frankie Avalon. We went in there and blew up the cannon, and I ran and jumped up on the horse, and they blew the cannon up when they stuffed it with mud, the barrel. And then we came back in there, and they fell the horse. Me and Bill Williams, we fell that horse right there in the Alamo, in the doorway there. And so I did that, and then doubling Frankie on other little things around there, you know. And but that was, I wasn't doubling Frankie when I did that great stunt where I ran. It was about 5 montage shots there, and I didn't double him in that. I was just doing myself. So anyway, that's what happened there.
That's the part when you guys are going to steal the beef. You're going to steal the herd.
Had to get the beef in there because they had sealed everything off, and that was the end of the trail for all the Bowie people. And they killed everything in there except Joan O'Brien and that kid and the little black boy and Issa Wayne. The exit there at the end of the picture.
Boys, Davy, laying there to get out of your share of the work, are you, old man? I'm glad you come, Davy. I wanted to thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I wanted to thank you.
Thank me.
Davy, I've seen the world because of you. 70 years I lived in a small settlement, and then you brung me here to see a far country. I always wanted to travel, Davy, but I had to stay home. There was always a child to raise, and it was like a divine gift when you said, "Come along if you want to, old man, but don't do any praying over me." That's what you said, Davy. Remember?
I remember.
That's all, Davy. I wanted you to know I was grateful.
We haven't had many conversations, sir. Only time I've ever called on you is when I wanted something. When I was in a tight, like a little boy hollering for his paw. Now I want something again. I brought these men down here without asking them did they want a piece of this war. It's a failing of mine, deciding for others. So if you could find it clear to let these men live through this battle, I'd be forever thankful. But if your stick don't float that way, please to remember, sir, these are good men. All.
Do you remember that scene with Hank Worden?
Yes, I do,
That's a really good scene in that movie, and I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. It's a very powerful scene with Hank Worden and John Wayne. What was your favorite scene from that movie?
Well, I liked a lot of the scenes, I wasn't in some of those scenes like where Chuck Roberson and them were talking about they knew they were all going to die and stuff like that. There were some really terrific scenes there with a beekeeper and with Wayne and all those things right in there. See, I was a buoy man, and I had to do a lot of stuff. And with Ken Curtis, he was more of a buoy man. The Tennesseans, they were about 15 of those old boys that wore the coonskin caps and were all from Tennessee. So we had the Tennesseans, and I was a buoy guy. And but now, when I jumped over that horse, I was doing one of the Tennesseans. But as far as the acting, other than ad-lib lines and stuff that I had in there, I did not do anything as a Tennessean because this wasn't meant to be there. And remember when John Wayne and Tom Hennessy did the thing with the feather and all that stuff, and we were doing all the dancing in the cantina there, and they had busloads of people they brought in there. And my wife and I got married in that church right across the street there at Brackettville. And I did.
Okay.
So it has all of that movie and everything there, before, during, and after. Brackettville and the Alamo has an awful lot to do with Debbie and I's lives and our son Pinus.
That was going to be one of my next questions. When was the last time you visited the Alamo? So I guess, how many times have you visited that set since the movie was made?
My God, I've been down there many, many times over the last few years. Hell, it's been we did that in 59 to 60. I went back to Brackettville the next year on Two Rode Together with Jimmy Stewart and Richard Widmark. We went down there on the Sugarland Express in 73, and then Debbie and I, we'd go down there on different occasions. Happy Shahan and Virginia were still living. Felicia was still living, and she's gone now. And I still talk to Jamie and Walt. They live up here about a mile or two from me right now, and they own that whole 5,000 acres there. So I'm pretty much still involved with all of them people because I was a very young person working on a very impressionable movie about Texas history.
Right.
And knowing all of these people, just like with Wayne and all those people in the movies. I mean, I stay in contact with all the Duke's children, grandchildren, and all of them. Hell, they're like my relatives, you know.
Right.
I mean, I've been with them for, well, let's see, I started working for them in 59. That's about, 40, 55 or 60 years. 55 years, my wife just came in here. I'll give you a gold star for that. Anyway, I really have been blessed. I know that I have. I've enjoyed what I've got to do. I got to do it, and it happened for me. And a lot of people thought, well, you know, that damn kid, he went to the University of Texas and went to school and down there and was a great athlete. Well, he ended up playing cowboy and then into the movie for all those years.
Right.
But now that I'm 83 and don't know how many years I've got left, I'm glad I picked what I wanted. Most people don't have a chance to do that. I did it. Now, I'm sure can claim to you that I'm no Phi Beta Kappa, but let me tell you, I've got to do things that most people would never get.
At the end of the movie, the final battle, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of chaos. There's so many different people moving at one time. There's a lot of things going on in that final battle. How long did it take to do that? There's a lot of things going on. I'm very curious. I've always wanted to know, how did they shoot that final scene at the Alamo? How did they film the final battle? Because there's a lot of things going on, and it looks absolutely beautiful. It's a beautifully shot movie, and that final battle is very, very well done. So how did they make that?
It's just a process of covering the big shots of them all coming in there and chasing, coming in there and climbing and shooting, and the people they had to shoot all the horses charging in there and all the colorful part of the Mexican army. It was a big, colorful spectacle.
Right.
They had to go do that. It just takes time to start showing all that stuff because you've got to cut it and edit it and do all that type of situation there. And each man that had a character there at the end, they would show how Wayne got killed. And remember how they stuck a spear in him and he took that in there and threw that damn dynamite there into the bunker there in front of the mission, you know. Mm-hmm. And Whitmark, he got killed back in there. He had injured his leg, and they had come and stuck him with those bayonets. Harvey, he broke the sword over his knee and threw it at him, and they just overpowered him. Same way with Ken Curtis. Big Boy Williams and Chill hit me in the head with the damn butt of a gun, and he wasn't supposed to do that and knocked me about half silly. Big Boy Williams was in there, and but all of these guys all had their individual deaths and the way they edited and did all that stuff, you know.
Charlie Hagan.
Yeah? You want something from me?
You don't remember me, do you?
No.
You remember this hat?
Well, why in the hell would I remember a hat?
You killed a man that was wearing it. Ladies.
Si, senor, si.
Just who was this fella I killed? A friend of yours?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
When did I do this, boy?
2 years ago, come September. You and 3 others. Natchez under the hill on the Mississippi. He was a gambler named Johnny Diamond. And he was kind of an old man. Shouldn't have taken for you.
Do you remember, Charlie?
Yeah, I remember. He was a card sharp. He was cheating.
No, he was good. He didn't have to cheat.
They really shouldn't have taken for you, Charlie.
No, it shouldn't have. Well, I'm sure glad you remember Mr. Hagan. The other 3 did.
The other 3?
Yeah. I caught up with them. You're the last. And now I think you better stand up.
Stand up, Charlie. I'm curious to see how he does this. He doesn't have a gun. And like he said, he shouldn't have taken 4 of you. Stand up, Charlie.
Is it accurate to say that you're best known for being knifed by James Caan in El Dorado?
Well, I would imagine, yeah, they'll say that. That's one scene, that kid, I mean, you can't miss him. As long as they show that picture, that'll be a thing they'll say, well, how did they kill him? And he pulls that damn knife out there and sticks it in me. And it really was an effective shot, if you'll notice. Very effective.
In that movie, what were you wearing to protect yourself and stop the knife when it's thrown at you? How were you guys able to make that happen?
Well, I have a block of wood on my chest tied to me, and where they sailed this handle, this gold handle down that black piano wire and stuck it in me, and it was so effective. It was almost too effective. It was so terrific.
Now, was James Caan the person who actually threw the knife? I mean, I know in the movie he throws the knife at you, but when it was shot, was he actually the person who throws the knife at you, or was that another stuntman who was off camera and then they just throw it at you and they make it look like James Caan threw it at you? Was it actually James Caan who threw the knife at you?
It was all himself.
Oh, okay.
It was all rigged by effects and him. They had a shot of him throwing the knife, reaching and getting it, and then they showed me coming up, and that thing hit me in the chest, and it sold. It really did sell, I'll say that. It really really did rig that up good,
Really love that movie, and definitely love that scene. And this is a real treat for me to be talking to that guy now. This is
Thank God we're
great.
still here.
Yeah, right. Yep. This is great. Besides the one scene that you're in, did you do any other work on El Dorado? Did you double for anyone else? Because there's a couple scenes where there were stuntmen needed. There's the scene where they're in the church and somebody falls out the top and grabs the bell and falls down. That could have been you. And then also the part where Mississippi James Caan's character, he dives under the horses.
What was the idea diving under those horses?
Diving under those horses?
Yeah, a man can't shoot good when his horse is jumping, and a horse will not step on a man.
Besides that one scene, did you do any other work on El Dorado?
That was about the most thing that I did. They did have me where they wanted me to do some stuff, but they did it down in Old Tucson. I worked on the El Dorado about a week there at Paramount Pictures, and Old Man Hawks liked me real well. And of course, on what else did we do with Mr. Hawks?
Rio Lobo?
Rio Lobo, I did that down in Cuernavaca in Tucson. And I used to eat supper with him almost every night in a place called it had a lot of flamingos in the courtyard there. And but anyway, Howard Hawks was really the nicest man, had class, and he liked those high-stepping, slender, high-fashion models. That was his thing. He would take them and give them lines and make them actresses,
Besides the part that you were in, do you have a favorite scene in El Dorado?
Other than that, El Dorado, I think when Wayne told those guys to go out that door,
Yeah.
they knew that guy on the other side was going to shoot the shit out of him, and I think that was, that was my favorite scene, because boy, you could tell those guys didn't want to go back there through that door.
Yeah, that's a great movie. El Dorado, and in this next one, Rio Lobo, it's a toss-up between those two of my favorite John Wayne movies. I really, really love Rio Lobo. That's a great.
Well, I must have had 30 lines in that picture.
Yeah.
See, Old Man Hawks had considered me to do the parts that Chris Mitchum did, and of course the name Mitchum probably meant a little bit more than the name Smith, and Chris was a good actor, and anyway, I was up for that part, and didn't get it, but he liked me so well that every time Chris had a line, I had a line. That's a true story, and I wasn't even in the script, and I got paid 2 salaries, one for stunt work and one for an actor, and they were I made a pretty good amount of money on that picture, and he liked me real well, and I just I just think he was the greatest to be so nice to me and everything. He was one of my greatest, him and Ford and Duke and all those guys. I met the biggest, best men you ever saw in your life. They were just terrific. I couldn't been more blessed to have known all these gentlemen. And they were all high-class gentlemen.
Right.
And they were all terrifically talented.
I know in the movie you play a Confederate soldier. Bitey is the name of your character. You wear a funny hat, and you have a bandage with real blood from you, but then they use that bandage on Pierre Cardona, the captain of the Confederate soldiers. They use that bandage that you had to trick John Wayne. So I know you played a Confederate soldier in that movie, but there's a scene in the movie where the Confederates throw a hornet's nest into a Union train car, and the Union soldiers have to jump out of the moving car. Now, even though you played a Confederate soldier, did they have you double any of the Union soldiers? Did you dive out of that train?
No, I was not one of the guys in the train, but I was a guy with a stovepipe hat.
Right. But they never said, "Hey, do this stunt as well."
I was off. They had done. We were off camera when we come in there when they stopped the train and stole the money, and I was the guy down there when they threw the strong box out there, and I had some pretty good lines there. I forget what the hell they was, but anyway, I had a lot of good lines in that picture. I wish I could remember that line there when we opened it. And but anyway, we were in Cuernavaca, Mexico, on a lot of that movie. And then we went to Old Tucson and finished up where we had the shootout there at Rio Lobo.
Right.
George Plimpton, he was still alive, and he did a special on me, and he did a special on Duke and on him. Actually, the special was on George Plimpton. But anyway, then he died early. Mm-hmm. He did several books, Paper Tiger, and a bunch of stuff like that.
Well, young lady, you gave us quite a chase.
Sheriff, this is the man that I wanted you to arrest. He's the murderer.
Well, that may give the sheriff a wrong idea about me. It's self-defense, Sheriff. Old man tried to knife.
That's a lie. He didn't have a
Hold
knife.
on, miss. I can handle this. Who are you, mister? And what exactly is your business here?
Name's Carter. Whitey Carter. I'm a deputy from Rio Lobo. As to my business, I came looking for her. She's wanted.
Wanted?
What for?
She and the old man she lived with ran one of them medicine shows. You know, snake oil, crooked shell games, pick a few pockets on the side.
That's another lie. I didn't do anything.
She was a come-on. Sheriff in Rio Lobo just wants to talk to her. So I'll take her along with me.
Just a minute, Mr. Carter. I'm the sheriff of Blackthorn, and I want to see a warrant.
A warrant?
For the young lady's arrest.
Well, I never thought about that.
Without a warrant, you're not taking anybody.
I got a warrant right here, Sheriff.
Satisfied, Sheriff? Now drop your gun and go sit down. All right, everyone stand still. No one gets hurt. Come on, you.
Do you remember that scene with Robert Donner and Jennifer O'Neill in the hotel?
Yes,
Yeah, that's a good one, right?
And she shot that guy underneath the table there. Are you talking about that?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So you got a bad tooth?
No, I haven't.
Get in the chair.
I told you my tooth's all right.
Get in the chair.
Well, can't we just talk?
See that fellow over there by the jail? He's checking out your story on your tooth. All right, open real wide.
Well, I can't talk with my mouth open.
I'll ask the questions. You just nod or shake your head.
Oh.
Now, that girl Maria, the one that got knocked around, she send you?
Yeah.
I thought so. Well, you bolted in here.
Ouch, that hurt.
Well, then yell. Most of my patients yell a lot.
Ouch.
Take a look out there.
Ow. Oh. Ow. Ow. Oh. He's gone. Is that my tooth?
No. Yours are fine.
Tell me what's going on around here.
Well, the man really running things and putting up all the money is a man named Ketchum. Came in here right after the war. Hendricks killed the sheriff we had, and Ketchum made Hendricks the new sheriff. Take a look out there.
Wish I could hear what they're saying.
Don't have to. Blackmail. They do things the way they've been doing it. Hendricks will send his bully boys out to old man Phillips' ranch. They'll run off all his stock, so he's on foot. Then they'll tell him that the way to keep his boy from being hanged is to sign over his ranch to him for a quarter of what it's worth. Now, I know that old man. He's stubborn as hell. But he dearly loves that boy. So they'll keep him there till he cracks, signs over his land.
Well, Ketchum's been picking up a lot of land.
All of it that's any good. Mr.
Doesn't matter.
Well, Mr. Doesn't Matter, I hope you can do something. You got plenty of help?
Well, no, I haven't.
Well, God be with you. I still wish you luck. We ought to give them one more good yell. They usually yell a lot when I give them a shot of this.
Hey, ow! That's the real stuff.
Well, if you'd have been a good enough actor, I wouldn't have used it.
Do you remember that scene when John Wayne's getting his tooth pulled?
Yes,
Yeah.
And the guy that did it knew him real well. He was a good actor, and forgot his doggone name, but anyway, David Huddleston's his name, and they made that Wayne act like he was really in pain, and they were trying to influence those guys that were bad boys over there at the jail.
Part where he goes, he sprays something in John Wayne's mouth, and he goes, "Oh, that's the real stuff." And he's like, "Well, if you'd been a better actor, I wouldn't have had to use it."
Yeah, that was a terrific scene.
Yeah.
And David Huddleston, I think he's still living, but he was a pretty good actor, and he had a good sense of humor. You know, he had been a better actor. You know.
Yeah.
But he was just. I was still kind of youthful and everything in those days. I was like a little old kid in the candy store working with all those. I was sitting on top of the world in those years. Not many people had that opportunity.
What's your favorite scene in Rio Lobo?
Well, I think, let's see, I doubled Jorge Rivera in a couple of stunts there where they were great. I remember a scene that I was in the prison, and they said name, rank, and serial number. And I said Macomb Body, Lance Corporal, two below Fusiliers. It was kind of a small outfit, kept on getting smaller. The last time I heard, I was all of it. That was this one there. I thought that was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Next one. Name, rank, unit. Macomb Body, Lance Corporal, two below Fusiliers. Two below Fusiliers? Kind of a small outfit, kept on getting smaller. Last time I heard, I was all of it.
I remember that scene. That's I think that's my favorite John Wayne movie ever. I think it is.
Well, the thing is, we did a lot of stuff down there, and but I've got 3 or 4 John Wayne pictures. By God, they're pretty hard to beat those, and but everybody claims our day's probably the best. But I tell you what, now I worked in some of the, I worked in the Alamo, Rio Bravo, Comancheros, McClintock, El Dorado, How the West was one, Big Jake, Rio Lobo, and in Harm's Way I did that,
Let's talk about your book, Dean. You currently have a book out. The title of the book is Cowboy Stuntman, From Olympic Gold to the Silver Screen. I absolutely love that title. I think that's a great title. I'm just curious, who came up with the title? Was that you? Was that your wife? Was that Mike Cox? Who came up with the title for this book? It's a great title.
Yes, and the guy that wrote it with me and my wife, he was terrific. He captured me in my own stride. That's what I say. And like I said, we sold all the books Friday night in Abilene. And I'd like to get to know Michael McConaughey. I don't know. I know he's a great actor, and I think he can play me. Don't know for sure, but I'm working on try to get to know him.
Right.
And I would like very much to get it made into a movie.
Right. One of my questions was going to be, what actor nowadays would play you in a movie if this book gets turned into a movie? And I can't think of a better guy than Matthew McConaughey. He kind of has a resemblance to you, and he kind of talks similar to you. I think he'd be perfect for the role.
He just turned down a story to do Fred Steinmark, who was the boy that lost his leg at Texas. Now, Matthew and I have never met, but he is connected with the University of Texas, which I am very much connected to. He's got a lot of people down there in Austin. I guess he lives in Austin. But now this is what we've got to get to know him and see if he has an interest in this. And but he turned down that Fred Steinmark story. So I think if he played me and he played, I don't have a dark past, so I think he could play me very, very well.
Right.
Up until the time I got sick with cancer, he could play it up to that part. Now, they do several things, but now they'd have to try to catch this book like it's written, because it's written good and everybody likes it the way it was written.
Right.
So that's what would be very important, So a lot like I said, it's only the future knows.
Right. I would love to see a movie based on this book because you have lived quite the life. It's a very amazing story. I can't wait to read this book. Talking to you got me all excited, so I'm definitely can't wait to.
You can get it on
Amazon.
Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Debbie DEBBY Smith at hotmail.com. I think that they give you information.
Now, how long did it take you to write this book, and what was the motivation behind you writing it?
Well, my wife wanted to have a book for our son, Fineness, and so I said, "Well, go for it." So we found Mike Cox, and we got him, and it worked out, and we had lots and lots of sessions of sitting down doing it and everything, and that's how he was really the one that wanted me to do this thing. I guess we did this about 2.5 years ago or so. We've had it down there 1.5 years and out, and hell, we've got a kind of a mom and pop deal. We're not in any big hurry to do anything, and it pretty much will accept itself. We haven't had any bad press on it because it was not a good. It's a good story, and right. You can't make it out to be anything other than that.
Now, tell me about the cover. This is you doubling Roy Rogers. What was that like, and how was it riding Trigger?
Well, that wasn't the real Trigger, but...
Oh, it wasn't?
I mean, old Roy's had about a dozen Triggers up until then, you know.
Oh.
But Roy was a very good friend of mine. I met him through Dale Robertson, who had the same agent. Art Rush was his agent, and Dale Robertson's agent. And we go back, I did Macintosh and TJ with him in 75, and we were at Dickens, Texas, when we made that picture. And we lived in an old motel where everybody else was going to love. Me and Roy stayed in Dickens. We didn't want that other 150 miles every day back and forth, so we canceled that out and stayed out in Dickens there. So we finished the picture, you know.
Dean, just a couple more questions before I let you go, and I know this has been a very long interview, so I really appreciate you being so generous with your time, but just a couple more questions. I'm just curious, when was the last time you sat down and watched a movie or TV show that you made, whether it was a Western or some of the non-Westerns you made? When was the last time you just sat down and watched some of the stuff that you made during your career?
Well, every chance I get, if they show it, we try to watch it, you know, and now last night they showed Common Churros, and I watched some quite a few things in there that I did when I was doubling Stuart Whitman and doing all the stuff in Common Churros. And, but you know, I got some videos and stuff that once in a while I'll get bored and I'll want to watch something that I've done before. I did a little movie called Seven Alone. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's a movie I starred in, and I played Kit Carson, and you might pick that up some way at one of those. But then you'd probably have to order it some way. But anyway, it's a kid's picture, but it's a pretty good picture.
Dean, last question. I know you've worked with pretty much a who's who in the business, you know, from John Wayne, Roy Rogers, James Garner, everyone in between. You worked with all these great guys. But is there one actor or maybe 2 or 3 actors who you never got a chance to work with, but you really wanted to over the course of your career?
Well, let's see. I would have loved to. I did work one picture with Gary Cooper, which was they came to Cordura with Rita Hayworth, and I would have loved to have done that movie with Clark Gable and Jane Russell, the tall man. I would have liked to work and met Clark Gable. I did work on a picture. I was supposed to double Montgomery Clift, but he was right-handed and I'm left-handed, and I was going to rope some horses, and I didn't get to do that. And on that picture, Clark got sick, and he didn't last long. I think he died maybe a little later on that picture. But anyway, I would have liked to have known and worked with Clark Gable, because I liked that Gone with the Wind picture so well. And that picture was really, really a good picture.
Dean, this has been such a fun time. I know I told your wife we'd only go an hour, and I know we've gone way over time, but I just had so much fun. I could talk to you all day about all this great stuff, all the stuff you were a part of.
It's not hard when you've lived it.
Yeah.
So it ain't anything that I have to learn to memorize. Of course, my mind still works good. Now, if I told you something I couldn't remember in the next 30 minutes, but I can remember all this stuff real well, you know.
Right. This was an absolute honor and a privilege to talk to you today.
Stay in touch and let me know how your career is going, and I wish you well. And the thing is, always stay open-minded, believe in God, and do the right thing, and things will come your way. We need to put a lot of shit to rest in this country, and I'm not kidding you. It is pretty pathetic with what we're having to put up with right now. We need better than what we've got.
I hear you, and I'm with you.
22 years old, seems like you got some smarts. Just don't let them leftists get you in the damn corner and make you wash you. Do I make sense to you, son?
I'm with you, Dean. I'm with you. I hear you, loud and clear.
But you're young, and you've got to watch your step, what you say. My mom always told me to stop and think before I spoke. But now I'm 83 years old, and I really don't give a shit.
Right.
What the hell them bastards think.
Right.
But now I'm at that point where I'm not worried about somebody giving me a job. Now, if I had to do some work, I'd be a pretty good old codger playing some parts right now. So I could still do all that. But I'd want to do it really good with the right people. That's pretty hard. Pretty hard to get that done.
Yep. Yep.
We need this country to get back on its feet and do something good.
Right.
Remember what the advice I've given you, okay?
I'll definitely put it in the memory bank and lock it up tight.
And as long as you do the right thing, you'll be fine.
Definitely. Dean, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
Keep us informed of how you're doing.
I will. We'll definitely stay in touch.
Okay, pal. Well, God bless you and good luck.